Welcome to the third lesson of the Costume Design for Film and TV course at TAIM Africa. Now, this is where the real fun begins because today we're diving into pattern drafting and production techniques, the skills that bring your costume designs from paper to reality. Whether you want to make an epic superhero cape or a delicate period gown, this lesson will give you the practical tools to make it happen. Let's get to work. So, you've sketched out your costume design and visualized it through a mood board. The next step is to draft the patterns that will bring your designs to life. Pattern drafting is the blueprint for your costume. It's what allows you to take a 2D idea and turn it into a 3D wearable masterpiece. Here is what I mean by pattern drafting. Every costume starts with the silhouette. Is the outfit flowing and elegant, like a gown? Or structured and sharp, like a suit of armor? Your pattern should reflect this overall shape. For example, in films like Bridgerton, the characters wear costumes that have exaggerated waistlines and full skirts. The silhouette immediately transports you to the Regency era, where fashion was all about poise and grace. One of the most important parts of drafting is taking precise measurements. Without the right measurements, even the most beautiful design won't fit the actor correctly. So, grab your tape measure and take these essential points: bust, waist, hips, and length. Tip: always measure your actors when they're standing straight with their arms relaxed. Add a little extra to the measurement for comfort and ease, especially for action-heavy films where the actor needs to move freely. Once you have the measurements, it's time to transfer them onto your pattern paper. This is where your creativity comes to life on a technical level. Using a simple bodice block as your base, start by adding the unique elements of your design. For example, let's say you're creating a medieval-inspired dress for a fantasy film. You'd start with the bodice block, then add wide sleeves, a flowing skirt, and perhaps even a corset structure for that period look. Think about the character's movement. Will they be running, fighting, or dancing? These actions require special considerations in the pattern. Adding pleats, slits, or gussets allows more freedom of movement without tearing the costume. For example, in action films like The Avengers, superhero costumes are designed with flexibility in mind. Look at Black Widow's catsuit. It's sleek, but also engineered to allow high kicks and acrobatics thanks to hidden panels and elastic materials. Now that you've got your pattern, let's talk about the fabric. Fabric is the heart and soul of any costume. It determines not only the look but also the feel and function of the garment. Choosing the right material can take a design from ordinary to extraordinary. There are two broad categories of fabrics: natural and synthetic. Natural fabrics like cotton, silk, and wool are breathable and often more comfortable to wear, but they can be expensive and may not always have the durability needed for intense action scenes. On the other hand, synthetic fabrics like polyester, nylon, and spandex are durable, cheaper, and often more flexible. For example, in historical dramas like Downton Abbey, natural fabrics like wool and silk are used to create authentic period costumes that feel luxurious. But in modern sci-fi films, costumes often rely on synthetic materials for durability and that futuristic sheen. Your fabric choice also needs to match the time period and style of your film. For a 1950s film, you might use heavy wool suits and delicate chiffon dresses. But for a futuristic dystopian movie, think sleek metallic fabrics or industrial materials. For example, in the futuristic world of the Hunger Games, the capital citizens wear over-the-top costumes made from synthetic fabrics and metallics, symbolizing wealth and a disconnect from nature. Don't be afraid to experiment with layers and textures. Combining different fabrics can give your costumes depth and dimension. Use heavier fabrics like velvet for royalty or powerful characters, and lighter fabrics like chiffon for dreamlike sequences. For example, in the film Cinderella, the ball gown uses layers of tulle, silk, and satin to create a fairy tale effect. Each layer adds texture and volume, making the dress feel magical. Once you've chosen your fabric and cut your patterns, it's time to start construction. This is where your costume comes to life. We'll go over some essential sewing techniques and tricks to ensure your costumes not only look great but also hold up on set. Here are some practical production tips you may need. Start by sewing the seams carefully. Use a straight stitch for most seams, but if the costume needs more flexibility, like for a dance scene, switch to a zigzag stitch or even use an overlock machine for extra stretch and durability. For example, think of the flowing gowns in The Lord of the Rings. They may look simple, but the hidden stitching ensures that the fabric moves beautifully while staying strong during battle scenes. Closures are another crucial element. Make sure to match your closures with the overall design. Zippers for modern costumes, buttons for historical pieces, and maybe even lace-up designs for fantasy films. Don't forget to reinforce these areas, as they tend to face the most wear and tear. For example, the iconic corset from Pirates of the Caribbean not only shapes the actress's figure but also fits seamlessly into the historical context of the film. Every lace, every stitch plays a role in character transformation. For finer details, you might want to use hand stitching, especially for embroidery, beadwork, or delicate appliques. But for the bulk of the construction, a machine will save you time and ensure even stitching. For example, in Game of Thrones, the intricate embroidery on Daenerys Targaryen's costumes was hand-stitched to add regal elegance, while the rest of the outfit was machine-sewn for durability and consistency. It's not just about designing a beautiful costume, you need to make sure it fits the world of the film. That's why you'll need to synchronize your costume designs with the production design team. Work closely with the production designer to ensure your costumes match the sets and props. If the set has a dark, moody vibe, the costumes should reflect that, using darker tones or more textured materials. In the film Blade Runner 2049, the neon-lit, gritty cityscapes are mirrored in the characters' costumes. Officer K wears dark, heavy fabrics that match the harsh, futuristic environment. Continuity is key. Costumes must remain consistent throughout a scene, especially if it's shot over multiple days. This means tracking any changes, such as bloodstains, rips, or weathering. In Mad Max: Fury Road, notice how the costumes evolve as the characters endure more hardship. Furiosa's costume starts pristine, but by the end, it's covered in dirt and grease, telling the story of her journey. That wraps up this lesson on pattern drafting and production techniques. As you continue to develop your skills, always remember that costume design is about telling a story. Your patterns, fabrics, and construction methods should all serve the narrative. Stay creative, stay passionate, and I can't wait to see your designs. See you in our next or closing lesson of this course.